Have you ever heard a story that feels just a little too real? One that burrows under your skin and stays with you long after you've heard it? Today, we're journeying back thousands of years to ancient Sumer, the cradle of civilization, to uncover a tale that was almost lost to history, a story deliberately erased from the records. It's the story of the Whispering Calf. Imagine the dusty plains of Mesopotamia, around 4500 BC. The Sumerians are masters of innovation. They've given us writing, the wheel, and sprawling cities like Uruk and Ur. They are meticulous record keepers, documenting everything on clay tablets, grain harvests, trade deals, and, most importantly for our story, livestock counts. These weren't just simple lists. They were the lifeblood of their economy, detailed accounts of every sheep, goat, and cow that sustained their society. Archaeologists have unearthed thousands of these tablets. Most are mundane, exactly what you'd expect from ancient accountants. But among these endless columns of numbers and symbols, a strange anomaly was discovered. A single, erased line. On a perfectly ordinary livestock tally, someone had inscribed a phrase and then with great effort tried to scratch it away. But clay, once fired, holds its secrets well. Under careful examination, the ghostly words became clear. The calf that speaks at night. This wasn't a one-off discovery. As researchers sifted through more archives, they found scattered, hushed references to this same creature. Furtive mentions in private letters, fragmented warnings on broken pottery. A picture began to form, pieced together from whispers across millennia. The story wasn't about a divine animal or a celebrated marvel. It was about a source of profound fear. According to these pieced-together accounts, a particular calf was born, seemingly normal in every way but one. As darkness fell over the farmlands, it would begin to speak. Not in moos or bellows, but in soft, sibilant whispers that sounded eerily human. Local farmers and herders were the first to notice. Huddled around their fires, they would hear it, a quiet voice drifting from the cattle pens, carried on the night wind. Curiosity, as it always does, got the better of some. They would creep closer, trying to make out the words. And what they heard chilled them to the bone. The calf wasn't speaking nonsense. It was whispering names. Specifically the names of the dead. It would call out for mothers, fathers, brothers, and children who had long since passed into the Sumerian underworld. The whispers were described as intimate, personal, filled with forgotten memories and shared secrets that only a loved one could possibly know. Imagine the temptation. You've lost someone dear to you, and suddenly you hear their name spoken with such familiarity in the dead of night. It would be almost impossible to resist, to not want to hear more, to feel that connection one last time. People would listen for hours, mesmerized, drawn into the phantom conversations. But this connection came at a terrible price. A chilling pattern began to emerge. Anyone who spent too much time listening to the calf, anyone who truly gave themselves over to its whispers, would change. They would become distant, their eyes vacant. They would stop responding to the voices of the living. Their families would call their names, but they would show no sign of recognition. It was as if the whispers of the dead had deafened them to the world of the living, trapping them in a silent world of memory and grief. They weren't physically harmed, but their spirit, their connection to the community, was severed completely. They were shells, lost in an eternal echo. The fear this created was palpable. This wasn't a monster that ripped and tore. It was something far more insidious. It preyed on love and loss, turning the deepest human emotions into a weapon. The community elders, the priests, they knew they had to act. This whispering calf was a threat to the very fabric of their society, which was built on communication, family, and shared life. So what happened to the calf? The records are deliberately obscure, as if detailing its fate was too dangerous. We can only speculate. Was it quietly slaughtered? Was it driven out into the wilderness to die? Or was it part of some dark ritual, an attempt to silence the voices it channeled? We simply don't know. What we do know is that a concerted effort was made to erase it from history. This brings us back to that clay tablet, the one where the warning was scratched out so violently. An archaeologist who studied it described the marks as frantic, almost desperate. It wasn't the neat, methodical erasure of a scribe correcting a mistake. It was the act of someone trying to claw a memory out of existence, someone who had written the words and instantly regretted it, as if merely writing them down had brought the terror flooding back. The scribe wasn't just erasing a line of text. They were trying to unremember. This story raises so many questions. Was the calf a biological anomaly? A divine messenger? Or a demonic entity feeding on sorrow? The Sumerians had a complex belief system filled with gods, demons, and spirits that walked among them. The line between the natural and supernatural was incredibly thin. For them, a talking animal might not have been unbelievable, but one that spoke with the voices of the dead, one that stole the souls of the living, would have been an omen of the highest order. Could there be a rational explanation? Perhaps a type of fungus growing on local grain that caused auditory hallucinations. Or maybe it was a case of mass hysteria, a folktale born from collective grief in a community that had suffered loss. These are possibilities, but they don't quite explain the specific, repeated details, the names of the dead, the whispering, the subsequent catatonia of the listeners. And they certainly don't explain the deliberate, fearful effort to scrub it from the official record. History is written by the victors, but it's also edited by the fearful. What other stories have been scratched out and buried, deemed too dangerous to remember? The tale of the Whispering Calf of Sumer is a haunting reminder that some things are so terrifying, the only defense is to pretend they never existed at all. It suggests that the greatest horrors aren't always the monsters we can see, but the whispers we can't resist. What do you think? Was this a real, unexplained phenomenon, or just a powerful piece of ancient folklore designed to warn against dwelling on grief? Let me know your theories down in the comments. I'd love to read what you all think about this chilling mystery from the dawn of time. Thanks so much for hanging out and diving into this strange piece of history with me. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more journeys into the unknown. We have a lot more mysteries to uncover together. Until next time, stay curious.